Welcome to Copytraders Club, where you can learn how to make more money copy trading. I'm Gavin McCauley, my name and username on eToro. You can continue the conversation on Discord and Facebook. Today is a solo episode where we reflect on the highlights from the last 3 chats, check the portfolio, and consider what the future holds for this podcast. Here we go. Episode 22 of Copytraders Club divided into 3 parts. Part 1, the 3 most recent chats. Part 2, portfolio update. And Part 3, plans for Copytraders Club. So Part 1, the 3 most recent chats. First off, we had the chat with J Nemesis. Loads of people listened to Part 1, but only a fraction came back for Part 2. Bit of a bummer. Maybe I should have released it all in one go as a long episode. But it was great to chat to Jay. He is indeed a very nice guy. I had heard that a lot from people prior to the recording. Jay was a really nice chap. And to some extent I thought maybe it was just people kissing the king's ass. But as it turned out, he was very decent, very easy to chat to. And although it was the first time we have spoken, I've watched him on YouTube a lot, and he has listened to just about every episode of this show. So we probably both felt we knew each other a bit before the chat. So we hit the ground running, really. There were many highlights, and over the course of the 2 parts, I think we definitely achieved our objectives of revealing more about Jay himself than all the other previous interviews. So if you didn't listen to Part 2, it's definitely worth going back for. Among the highlights was the song about the town where he lives, which I couldn't get out of my head for days. Days after the recording, I was in the supermarket and B to the A to the Sing was going around in my head. At one stage, while contemplating the muesli choices in front of me, I absent-mindedly sang out loud, Basingstoke, and made a nearby little old lady jump a bit and edge away from me, thinking I was a very strange person, which made me laugh like a lunatic and confirm her suspicions. We also chatted with Jay Malazzo, stockupwithjoe.com. I'm always happy to talk to other people in the eToro ecosystem who are creating useful content. I have future chats coming up with YouTubers and the like, and this was one of those episodes. If you're a copy trader, consider checking out Joe's website and signing up for his mailing list. Some good and useful stuff there. Joe has plenty of experience on eToro and a great understanding of how it all works, and a whole raft of ideas for improvements to the platform. I hope eToro appreciate the ideas factory that is out there and are paying attention to it. It's a good system, but as Joe would say, the opportunities eToro has to improve the system and their bottom line are endless and being detailed to them by eToro commentators like Joe. The 3rd chat in this series was with Bees84. Now this episode is interesting for several reasons, but one is definitely the way and the extent to which Stephen communicates with his copiers. He's really so hands-on, it's amazing. He's a very caring sort of guy, and really does provide a human touch way beyond the average PI, even those who are good communicators. I've been reflecting since this episode on how different the copier experience is to copy someone like Stephen and someone at the other end of the spectrum like Libor Vasa, for example. Although they are both PIs and are managing the copier's money, I would go as far as to say that they are in fact offering different services. One is like a robo-advisor, coldly directing your investments with little or no human touch or information flow. The other is like a capable friend, a confidant, someone who's also directing your investments, but always discussing with you why they're doing what they're doing, addressing any fears, answering questions, improving your knowledge, and more. Different products, really. I wonder how much Stephen will be able to keep this up if he does progress into the many thousands of copiers. He may have to make some adjustments, but I'm sure he will still feel an obligation to keep his impressive level of communication going, regardless of how many copiers he has. I'm sure he'll find a way, since it is central to his purpose. Coming up in part 2, Portfolio Update. Part 2, Portfolio Update. Very little to say here. I closed one position from one of my copies for reasons of principle, rather than anything else. That is explored in the Stock Up with Joe episode. Other than that, no great changes. I'm looking forward to seeing how the second half of the year goes, after a pretty flat last few months. I may buy more crypto if there are further dips. Having watched a few YouTube videos, I am, of course, now an expert and can clearly see that this is the last great opportunity to buy cryptos before they become completely mainstream and finally realize their full potential and are priced accordingly. In 10 years' time, it will be like looking back at buying Apple, Amazon, and Facebook for pennies. Of this I am 100% certain, and this is financial advice. You should definitely remortgage your house and buy cryptos. Only joking, I have no clue what I am doing, and am speculating based on other people's confidence. The disclaimer at the end of the show still very much applies. And that's all there is to the portfolio update this time around. Coming up in part 3, plans for Copytraders Club. Hope you're enjoying today's show. I'm sure you've subscribed already. If you are a successful copy trader, happy to share what you've learned, there's no need to have a public profile. Get in touch. The bigger the club, the better for you. So tell people on eToro about this show. Ask your PIs to come on. That way you will get to know them better. We build this club together. Part 3, plans for Copytraders Club. Well, we are 22 episodes in, and I'm booked quite solid for the next few months in terms of guests, and I'm really enjoying it. As I hope comes across, I'm genuinely interested in the guests. The purpose of the show was to create a place for copy traders to learn more of the stuff they need to know to be successful. To learn what mistakes to avoid. I know it's a cliche, but to build a community of eToro users to learn more together and exchange ideas. So what is success for the club? Well, I'm trying not to look at the metrics. I'm more focused on learning how to make a good podcast. 4 months ago, I knew nothing about making a podcast, so this is still very much the learning phase. I said I was making the podcast I would want to listen to, and that is still really what is guiding my approach. So success for me is to enjoy making something that I think is useful, informative, and entertaining, and that a growing number of people want to listen to for those reasons. As for the stats, I can't completely avoid them, especially on YouTube. Surprisingly, YouTube is getting more listens than any of the directories, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. By the way, if you're a user of Audible for your audiobooks, they are doing podcasts now, and Copytraders Club can be found there. I'm aware that uploading an audio file with a still image to YouTube is not really what YouTube is for. I agree. Of course, it seems incredibly pedestrian next to all the whiz-bang slick video productions on YouTube. It was a bit of an afterthought to upload the podcast to YouTube, and I'm still not sure if it was the right thing to do or not. I may, at some stage, cease putting it out on YouTube and concentrate on the real audio platforms. Some people are saying I should record the interview on video and release that on YouTube. The reason I don't do that is because of the amount of editing that goes into each episode, the sound quality, and my desire for perfection when it comes to audio quality. I'm pretty obsessive about the editing process. I hate listening to podcasts where the creator isn't obsessive and thinks it's okay to leave in 5,000 ums and long wheezy breaths and 650 dry mouth clicks and chair squeaks and people speaking over each other all the time. I can't listen to that, and I turn it off, even if I like the content and the people involved. And I want to make it as easy as possible for you to listen to Copytraders Club. So I edit for hours and tweak things down to the smallest detail. Any audio imperfections you hear are not left in through laziness. They simply can't be removed. At least by me with my current editing skill set anyway. Sometimes, because of the guest equipment or room, etc., audio issues do arise, and they're such that there's nothing I can do about them. And it hurts me to put those out. So if I was to film it, the edited audio would be completely out of sync with the visuals, and it would make the whole job impossible. I could only do so by sacrificing most of the audio editing improvements, and that is not something I'm willing to consider. Plus, I like the medium of audio. I think podcasts are an audio experience, really. Videos are something else entirely. I don't want to get into the game of making YouTube videos. And I'm not looking to get maximum YouTube exposure to the whole world. So I'm not competing with YouTubers. If I was, I might end up selling my soul for the algorithm and making thumbnails with hands on my face, eyebrows raised, and a mouth hanging open like an inflatable sex doll. What a loss of dignity. The one thing I do like YouTube for is to get comments from listeners. When I receive positive feedback in the YouTube comments section, I have to say it's very heartening. Nice to get validation that you're on the right track and that people appreciate the effort. If you really want to help, then please tell people and help us grow the show, either people you know or people in groups you belong to. And finally, what do I want to do? Well, I have some different episodes ideas. For example, the next one coming up is a departure in terms of format, which could grow into perhaps a monthly episode. So look out for that, and I welcome your feedback on the format. Basically, it's going to be a roundtable chat with Jay, Robert, and Felix, loosely based on the format of the Totally Football podcast with James Richardson. And if you have any ideas for the show, please let me know. What would you like to hear more of? What would you like to hear less of? If I allow myself a flight of fancy into the future, I can even imagine doing a series of episodes, Copytraders Club on Tour, where I drive around the UK for a couple of weeks, physically meeting PIs in their hometowns and having one-on-one chats with them in person. Glasgow, Edinburgh, Newcastle, Nottingham, Oxford, Basingstoke, London, with the tour finale at the offices of eToro. That would be great fun. But who knows when that might be possible. Or I could travel to somewhere there's a number of PIs, and I could stay for a few days and meet several of them, such as in Singapore. It's good to dream. I'd also love to commission someone to make some original music for the podcast, but again, that's another one for the future. These things need time and money, and I'm currently putting both my time and money into the podcast. I have the time at the moment thanks to the coronavirus decimating the travel industry from which I used to earn. The money is fine for the moment, but the longer you go and the more elements you want to incorporate into the show, the more the costs mount. So that's something to bear in mind. For now though, it's all good. I'm happy to continue making the podcast and thrilled that you're happy to listen and to recommend it to others. That's it from me. You can continue the conversation on Discord and Facebook. Until next time we meet at Copytraders Club, I wish you many happy returns. Obviously, anything you hear in this podcast is for entertainment only, not financial advice. Do your own research. This is just generic chit chat. We don't know your individual circumstances, etc., etc., and so forth.